Our next speaker is the Vice President and Legislative Liaison for the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. Rick Dalton received his Bachelor's of Arts in Statesmanship from George Wythe University, and he's a graduate of the National Center for Constitutional Studies in Washington, D.C. He was employed from 1978 to 1998 with the Mesa, Arizona Police Department and served in a wide range of positions from patrol officer to field training officer, crime scene officer, community relations specialist, a school resource officer, police academy instructor, and a firearms instructor. From 1998 to 2013, Rick Dalton served at the Heritage Academy in Mesa, Arizona as a history and economics instructor and the emergency response plan coordinator and baseball coach. He's received a wide number of community service awards and has many professional memberships in organizations such as the American Citizens and Lawmen Association, where he is the past president. So ladies and gentlemen, if you would please help me give a warm CSPOA welcome to Rick Dalton.
Well, what a great day it is. What a great view for me to see a cross-section of America out here. I've been told not to cry. I do get emotional. I'm not supposed to start off like that, though. But anyway, we are fortunate to be alive at this date and time, folks. We really, really are. Now, as Sheriff Mack so well described and explained, there are fundamental principles involved in any kind of government activity, agency, or employee. In fact, he told you, and I'm going to ask somebody real quick, what is the proper purpose of government? Somebody write up. There you go, to protect and maintain individual rights. I'll pay you later, Randy. Thank you. He knew it already. Randy's our Arizona State Director. And so because of that, we have to remember that any kind of a thing we do, any kind of a program, plan, system, must be for the main goal of protecting rights. That's got to be the reason we do everything. It's fun out there to catch the bad guys, and I was involved in it 20 years and 42 days on the Mesa Police Department. It's great to catch the bad guys. The chase is awesome. Catch them, rack them and stack them, cuff them and stuff them, slam them and jam them. It really is a great experience, isn't it, folks? But you know, there are some police officers today that when they pull somebody over and the subject asks them, why did you stop me? They will say, because I can. Should that be the reason we do anything, just because we can? No, should not be. And so, we need to remember that. We are, and I did this in the police academy, I talked to recruits, and I asked them, what's the biggest threat to people's freedom and safety? Hands raised up. Drug cartels, serial rapists, who knows what else, DUIs. And I said, well, those definitely threaten people's safety. But what I did to them, then I walked around the room, and there are a few too many people here to do it today. I walked around the room in that academy class, 20 to 30 brand new recruits with shaved heads and in their PT gear with their name tattooed across their butt. And I pointed at each one. I said, you are the biggest threat to people's liberty and safety. I pointed to each one of them and I said, you. Some of them were kind of shocked, but when you think about it, We have awesome powers as law enforcement or as peace officers, don't we? We can take life, liberty, or property, or all three. But let's hope that we all realize that we are limited. As Washington said, let's not hear anything about the goodness of man in government, but let's bind them down by the chains of the Constitution. And so that's got to be our first choice. Every time we have an idea, a program, anytime a law is proposed or some new plan, a new tactic in laws of arrest or arrest tactics or whatever else, the first question that needs to be asked, is it constitutional? It needs to be run up against the Constitution. Now, let me, all right, in 2015, New Mexico adopted a new landmark reform in the practice of asset forfeiture. You know, we have civil asset forfeiture, which does not require a criminal conviction to seize and keep assets. And we have criminal asset forfeiture, which requires a criminal conviction before you can forfeit the assets. They can be seized ahead of time based on, and some of our laws do not protect citizens' rights, especially innocent third parties. I want to talk about it. I want to present the case for abolishing civil asset forfeiture. We should be the examples of putting people's rights above any process, any benefit to us, any revenue. Should we not? Okay. I'm going to read to you. Oh, you're aware of civil asset forfeiture. Those laws started in about 1970. And the purpose is a good purpose, to eliminate or to deter by taking and seizing the proceeds of criminal activity. They were called RICO statutes, RICO, Racketeering Influence Corrupt Organizations, and also CCE, Continuing Criminal Enterprise statutes. There are federal laws on asset forfeiture, and I think all 50 states have laws also. New Mexico eliminated in 2015 civil asset forfeiture, period. They also eliminated the incentive for agencies to seize money, and especially when they're financially strapped, cities or agencies or municipalities, to seize money. By New Mexico statute says the money goes to the state general fund, not to the agency who seized it. To me, that's important. Now, people say, wait a minute. Well, we go through all the trouble and spend all the money and have the task force. But remember, we should not do a thing called policing for profit. And the incentive set, I don't know, and I'm sure that nobody in here would ever be motivated by revenue or profit to do something and cut corners on people's rights and seizing and or forfeiting property. I don't believe anybody in here would, but there are some who do, some agencies who do. Now let me read to you real quick a couple of things. This is a report of the Comptroller General, 1979, written to the Honorable Joseph R. Biden, United States Senate. He was in the Judiciary Committee. It's a report on asset forfeiture. Basically, it says billions of dollars of profits are generated by organized crime. Drug trafficking revenues alone are estimated at $60 billion annually. Even though legislation designed to attack these profits through asset forfeiture was enacted more than 10 years ago, forfeiture of criminal assets has been minuscule. So this whole report shows that we're not seizing enough property, we're not bringing in enough money. It never once mentions the Constitution. It never once mentioned protection of an innocent third party. A kid borrows his grandma's car and he's dealing drugs out of the car. They seize the car. It's hers. She doesn't have anything to do with it, but she has to prove it, not the other way around. The idea of innocence until proven guilty is not in many, maybe most of the statutes. She has to get a lawyer and prove it to get it back. If her car's worth $10,000 and it costs $15,000 for the attorney, she's not even going to do it. They keep it, they keep the money, and the grandma's never charged with a crime. That's improper. That's a violation of rights. That brings disrespect for law enforcement. And so let's talk a little bit about what's going on specifically today. In 2019, nursing student and single mother Stephanie Wilson had not one but two cars seized. She was never charged with a crime, but somehow she was able to get one of the cars back, but not the other one. That same year, the DEA and the TSA seized retiree Terry Rollins' life savings of $82,000 from his daughter as she passed through Pittsburgh International Airport on her way to open a joint bank account for him. 3 years earlier, 1,000 miles away, a sheriff's deputy in Muskogee, Oklahoma, seized more than $53,000 from Wah, W-A-H, the tour manager of a Burmese Christian musical act during a routine traffic stop. The funds were concert proceeds, and they were intended to support Burmese refugees and Thai orphans. None of the victims were ever convicted of a crime. So it happens. Now, again, the intention is good, is it not? We want to rob these guys of the proceeds, so it might deter them. The question is, does it actually deter crime? If forfeitures and seizures go up, does it deter crime? Well, let's check out a short video here.
Nationwide, civil forfeiture laws allow law enforcement to take your cash, cars, and even homes without proving you're guilty of anything. Billions are taken each year, and most of the money goes to the same police and prosecutors who took it, giving them a direct financial incentive to take your stuff. How big is forfeiture? Over the past 20 years, federal, state, and local law enforcement nationwide have forfeited $68.8 billion that we know of. Most states fail to report fully, so this is likely a dramatic undercount. Now in its third edition, Policing for Profit grades federal and state forfeiture laws on the protections they offer property owners and the financial incentives they give law enforcement to take property. Only New Mexico receives an A. In 2015, the state abolished civil forfeiture. Law enforcement can still forfeit property from criminals, but they must use criminal forfeiture and prove the property owners are actually guilty first. As important, New Mexico ended the profit incentive that fuels forfeiture. Now cash and forfeiture proceeds go to the state's general fund, not directly to law enforcement. Reform opponents warned that these reforms would lead to worsening crime, but as Policing for Profit shows, this did not happen. The report compares crime rates in New Mexico to those in neighboring states and finds New Mexico's overall crime rate did not go up, and arrest rates remained steady following the reforms. In contrast, most states get terrible grades because they make forfeiture both easy and rewarding for law enforcement. These states should follow New Mexico's lead and end civil forfeiture and its perverse financial incentive. They should also ban law enforcement from using the federal government's equitable sharing program to get around state limits on civil forfeiture. This controversial loophole has been prone to abuse. Proponents say forfeiture is an essential crime-fighting tool. But New Mexico's experience proves law enforcement can do their jobs without it. Moreover, new data show forfeiture isn't targeting kingpins. Instead, it's going after everyday Americans who lack the means to fight back, if it even makes sense to try. And often, it doesn't. Nationally, most currency forfeitures are under $1,300 on average, well below the cost of hiring an attorney. And because civil forfeiture is not a criminal proceeding, you do not have the right to an attorney if you cannot afford one. To protect Americans from losing property unjustly, states and the federal government should end civil forfeiture and direct all forfeiture proceeds to the general fund or another neutral account, eliminating law enforcement's direct incentive to police for profit. Until they do, we're all at risk. To learn more and see how your state stacks up, visit ij.org.
Okay, I'm not going to show the other one, Kelly. I just got the 5-minute notice, and the next video's 10 and a half minutes. Okay, well, folks, I know I testified on a bill in Arizona that would do the things that New Mexico did last week. It would require a conviction, et cetera. Who testified against the bill? The Association of Chiefs of Police, Phoenix Police Association, the police union. And what do they all say? Well, it's one tool that we need in our repertoire, our toolbox, to be able to fight crime. Well, it is a tool, and it has a proper purpose, but can we break the law of the land to enforce the law? Let's hope we don't even think about that, folks. Let's remember, our Constitution in Arizona says, and so did one of the founders, I forget the quote, a frequent recurrence to fundamental principles is essential to the preservation of liberty. A book called The Law by Frederick Bastiat. Anybody heard of that book? All right, should be more. He wrote it in 1850. He's a Frenchman, to show how socialism had destroyed his country, France. And he says this, and when he uses the word law, you can put government in its place. What is law? What is government? It is the collective organization of the individual right to self-defense. Is that not indeed what it is? That's what it's supposed to be. Partial powers of self-defense are delegated to you and me. That's what it is. There's another thing. No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Due process, folks. The right to a defense, the right to a counsel, et cetera, et cetera. Civil asset forfeiture does not provide it. And what about innocent third parties? What about the standard of proof? How do you prove that a piece of property was gained through the proceeds of criminal activity? Well, it requires proof. In a court of law, a criminal conviction requires unanimous jury decision, does it not? Unanimous. Let us not take lightly the protections and the rights for which many have given their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. I pray that God will help us and bless us. And their studies, you go to ij.org, the Institute of Justice. They've got their latest study called Policing for Profit. You can see what really happens and what the facts are, what the data is about asset forfeiture. May we be the examples and defenders of the Constitution. I'm going to take one more minute. Oh. I have about another 10 minutes. I hope that's it. I won't show the other video, though, but it's really, really good. The other video is a study that just came out by a professor, forget where it is, but you go to that website, and they have a thing called Policing for Profit. That video is on there, and it shows the stats of what it really does. It doesn't reduce crime, doesn't reduce drug use. Basically, it doesn't work. Okay, so then that's pretty cool. It's a quick story. Now, I joined the police department in 1978. We had a class called Constitutional Law in the Recruit Academy. It was 16 hours long, constitutional law. We never once opened the Constitution in that class. They never gave us a copy of the Constitution in that class. We did talk about case law, court decisions, but my heavens, that's not the law of the land. And you know, from the Dred Scott case to a bunch of other cases, they're wrong as many times as, I don't know. But anyway, I don't want to pick on the poor justices. But somebody woke me up by asking me one time, I was given a presentation as part of the Community Relations Division. A gentleman came up to me afterwards, elderly, he was using a cane. He said, Officer Dalton, thank you for your information today. It was really good. I'm starting to feel pretty good there. Then he says, hey, let me ask you something. You swore an oath to defend the Constitution, right? I said, yeah. By the way, he pulled me aside. He didn't make a spectacle to try to embarrass me. And he says, I said, yeah. And he says, well, what's your favorite one of the Bill of Rights? And I'm thinking, I wasn't sure. So I said, I like them all. Huh? Pretty good. Oh, and then I thought, oh, yeah, the Fourth Amendment. That's the one constitutional provision we talked about because it involves search and seizure, and that's the one most frequently used or dealt with by law enforcement. He could see me him and hawing, and he knew I didn't know the Constitution very well. And he said, let me just ask you, Officer Dalton, how can you protect and defend my rights if you don't know them? Man, that was a watershed moment for me. And since that day, I have been a serious student, and it will be a lifelong study of the U.S. Constitution and the principles of liberty. We need to know it. Folks, we're working on a curriculum. Thank you. We are working on a curriculum, a Recruit Academy curriculum in constitutional law, a model curriculum that we're going to get some input from you folks, and we want to get that in police academies around the country. Please help us to do that. Folks, I admonish you and I urge you, I double dog dare you to look into it and to make sure that your asset forfeiture laws, and make sure you don't do something, take somebody's property just because you can, okay? Because just because we can doesn't mean we should do it if it's wrong. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you.